Nearly live, and we're live. Hi there. This is an attempt at recapping the last day of hearings of the undercover policing inquiry, day 31, from just before Christmas. As regular listeners, watchers of my coverage of the undercover policing inquiry will know, I normally go live at the end of each day with an audio that goes into on Twitter, the Twitter Spaces. So rather than doing that, I thought try something different and do a video recap of what happened during the day. I am joined by Alison.
Hello.
Who is you can't obviously see, but her wide range of fabric representations. Do you want to take us through the fabric representations?
I will take us through. Yeah. Here's you.
Tom. Lovely. Thank you.
Just to be clear, these little fabric representations are not my craft. Just for the record.
Sure. Yeah.
An anonymous crafter created these, so that's you. Hi. This is me with my knitting. This is Kate Wilson, who may join us or may not join us later. And this, who is my creation, is the Wolf of Truth, who, a bit like a golem, was created during Mark Jenner's evidence. And since the evidence, he's been finished, he's stuffed. He does speak, but not on camera, I'm afraid, only privately to friends. He's a bit camera shy. But he has got a mail bag of letters that we're going to just talk through briefly before we start. They're not, I think they're, oh, you've fallen. Oh, there you go. There will be more letters coming, I think, but just so we see, this is Carlos Iraqi, who's giving evidence in the next tranche.
Yes.
Flat 666, Lying Bastards Avenue, Avoidance County, UK.
Brilliant.
Mr. Mark Kennedy, who's coming a little bit later. 23, Love Bombing Heights, Amnesia Avenue, Coward's End. That's rather clever, isn't it? Yeah. Mr. Bob Lambert, who has given evidence and will be giving more evidence later. Apartment 77, False Promises Avenue, String Along, Somewhere Near Hell. We actually all live somewhere near hell, but it's not on everyone's address. It's lettered. James Thompson, 81, Violation Terrace, Entitlement House, Gaslight on Sea, MI5 OUT. That's clever. Yeah.
Very good.
Mr. Mark Jenner, who will be obviously coming to soon, talking about. 14, Narcissist Court, Gutless on Thames, GD4, ICK, IC.
Very good.
No, there's not one in there. Hold on. Who's that? Rob Hastings, Rob Harrison, also giving evidence later in this tranche. The Shed, Gaslight Gardens, Selfish Shire, UK.
Nice.
And the next cop up, Jim Boiling, 13 Scumbag Road, Under a Stone, UK. So those are going back in the Wolf of Truth. I mean, there are others, that he's yet to be picked up from the post office to deliver. There's John Dines, there's Andy Coles. So there'll be more. But
there is a lot to come.
There's a lot to come. Yeah.
Fantastic.
So that's the Wolf of Truth. And he brings truth serum, hopefully,
to
the hearings and helps us watch the cops squirm as they give their lying bastard evidence.
Yeah. I saw him being born over the course of Jenner's evidence during that final week.
He did a good job. The Wolf of Truth.
The Wolf of Truth did, yeah. I was going to say, yeah. I mean, we'll get to the job that Mark Jenner did.
Yeah.
I mean, just to start, really. I mean, it was a bit of a change, wasn't it, on that last day? His approach seemed to have a marked difference, I felt.
Felt like somebody had a word with him overnight. Now, we're told that lawyers aren't allowed to. I mean, I know from, I gave evidence in one day, and I know that during the lunch hour, your lawyers are not allowed to speak to you. They're not supposed to interfere with your evidence. So let's assume that his lawyers, did the right thing and didn't speak to him overnight. But
I mean, I would say I can't imagine that Oliver Saunders was capable of appealing to someone's humanity and better judgment.
it's not Saunders.
Of course it isn't. No, I do apologise. Yes, of course, it's not. Who is his lawyer?
That Richard Whitting, someone.
Yes, yes.
I don't think it was. It may have been them. I mean, they had to show him a photograph, didn't they? Overnight,
Yes.
He was shown a photograph of our bedroom, or my bedroom, that he invaded. But my bedroom that had, oh yes, it turns out it did have a landline.
Yeah.
So he was shown that overnight. So he had to reflect on that overnight. My feeling is that somebody close to him now, probably if he's managed to hold on to a partner, his girlfriend, I suspect his current girlfriend, spoke to him that night and was probably looking a bit on social media or maybe just watching herself and was just like, what are you doing? If you want anybody with a shred of decency who currently exists still in your life to ever speak to you again, you need to present as partial human being instead of just gross, racist, sexist bastard. So, was it a kind of, was that day 3? Was that all a performance? Was that, or, to what extent was that the real Mark Jenner? I don't think, for me personally, I don't think I have to worry about that too much because he's not in my life anymore. But for the people in whose life he does still exist, I would be quite concerned about trying to work out which of these two people, the person of day 1 and 2, or the person, who seemed to have, dug out his moral compass from the, underbelly of his life and tried to recalibrate it a bit. And try to present as a human being. But, for me, it doesn't matter. What matters is that it took him 6 minutes, I think, to write down all the names of the people, his colleagues and his managers who knew about our relationship.
Yeah.
What matters for me and for, the campaign and the other women is that he said it was an open secret, our relationship, and that clearly everyone, not everyone, but if we believe him, but a lot of them knew.
Yeah, I think that came across very strongly. So we started off, he was asked to comment, he asked if he could comment, because the last thing he'd been shown on the second day of evidence was this diagram of the map of your flat. And he opened up by saying he'd like to comment on that, to which Barr said, oh, I want to show you a photo of the flat first. So we got that thing which you just talked through about being shown that there was in fact a landline. So we had to admit that he'd got that wrong. And then he was shown the floor plan again. He claimed he wrote communal kitchen because he was trying to distance himself from the fact he was cohabiting. And he admitted that he misrepresented his living arrangements to the back office. That was something he was really trying to squirm out of on the afternoon of the second day of questioning. So it was a real a sudden about turn, something he was like trying to argue the point, and he immediately just accepted.
But the same with Tom, the whole landline. And the mobile phone. Do you understand the significance?
Absolutely, yeah. No, I did. But do you want to lay it out?
Yeah, because the point about the landline in the bedroom. Well, there are many things to do with landlines and his evidence, but this
surprising amount, I felt.
I know. This strand is to do with the death threat that he received at some point. I don't know, mid to late 90s, and. For years after he went, I was wondering whether that even was a death threat. Was that just a phone call, to make him, I don't know, because I didn't know anything. But it turns out that there was disclosure that there were a spate of death threats to Irish Republican sympathisers, of which he was one. And his story was that death threat came through on his mobile phone. And I leant over him in the night to answer his mobile phone. Now, this was in a time where I didn't have a mobile phone. I mean, I wouldn't have known how to answer it, I don't think, but I certainly didn't lean over it in the night to answer it because it didn't come through on a bloody mobile phone. It came through on our landline, which was next to my side of the bed. But the reason he needed to say it came through on the mobile was because if it came through on the landline, and he was very clear in his evidence on day 2, wasn't he? That no, it couldn't have possibly come through on a landline because we didn't have a landline in the bedroom. The only landline was in the front room, and that had an answer phone. But the point being that if it came through on the landline, the question was, that meant the death threat could be, the people making that death threat could trace the landline to my home, and that put me at risk. So he was putting me at risk. And what had the police done to mitigate that risk? How had they protected me from any risk that he was suddenly put? Because when his family were allegedly put at risk by a fairly benign anti-fascist who happened upon him when he was outside his house, they were relocated.
Yep.
But when I was put at risk by a death threat that he received on my landline, it wasn't of any concern because it came through on his mobile. But then what emerged from the photograph that I dug up on the afternoon of day 2 was that, of course, we had a landline in the bedroom and his story was nonsense. So that was quite sweet. And also, I think what was I've got Jessica to thank, for saying, when we were listening to the evidence in the afternoon, she was like, have you got a photograph of your bedroom showing there's a phone in there? I was like, yes, I think I have. So I think what was really very sweet about all of that was that it was proving on the hoof in live time that his evidence was rubbish.
Yeah, and I mean, he just had to accept it without just to try not to look so foolish. I mean, he still looked foolish, but yeah. So Barr asked him when Bob Lambert knew that he was cohabiting with you. He said that it was that he spoke to 3 undercover officers, including his mentor, who then spoke to Lambert. Lambert told him to be aware how much deployment time it would cost him of cohabiting. He was asked who these 3 officers were. He said that 2 of them were anonymous officers that we can't even refer to the HN numbers about. These are the officers who work in the other area. They do have HN nominal numbers, but they're never referred to in hearings. We just get gisted reports about them. It's an area which is subject to restriction order. So given my track record on that topic, I'm not going to go any further. So Jenna said that these conversations with the 3 undercover officers took place in 1995. He was asked, with this false floor plan, who was he hiding the truth from? He said basically anybody apart from Bob Lambert, as he didn't know the other managers well enough. He trusted his fellow officers and Lambert to hide the fact that he was in this sexual relationship with an activist. But he was hiding it from people who might see that floor plan, which was part of his emergency contact in the back office. He was concerned that DCI Keith Edmondson would know that he was having sex with Alison because he was senior management. He said he trusted him, but he might think that living with a female, as he put it, was wrong. He said he didn't tell the next senior manager, which was HN 58, that he was in a sexual relationship with Alison. But he said he doesn't know if HN 58 knew. He says he was seen acting as a couple by other undercover officers, and there were jokes made at meetings. It was this point he referred to it as an open secret. He said he didn't care that it was known amongst his fellow officers. He was asked to name the officer who made the joke about it in an SDS meeting. He said the officer asked him if another woman was his girlfriend, and that every SDS officer knew. He then took that, as you say, 6 minutes to write down the names of all the other undercover officers who knew he was deceiving you into a sexual relationship, which was quite a weird moment, wasn't it?
It was very weird.
Because, I mean, it was like, oh, write the names down, and which happens quite often, people are asked to write names down, and it normally just takes a few moments.
Yeah.
And we just had that, it was just that thing of time, like he's still going, he's still writing down names.
That was one of my favourite moments, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, there were a few, but that was one of them.
Yeah, very strange. So it's clearly a long list of names. It turned out it appeared to mostly be those officers who've got anonymity. He said that Sergeant Noel Waugh asked Mark Jenner if another woman was his girlfriend. Jim Boyling knew about the relationship with Alison, but all the other names on that list were restricted. We were shown the transcript.
HM1 knew as well.
Yes.
That was his mentor.
That was his mentor, HM1, yeah. But yeah, none of the others' names or anything that we're allowed to know. So we were shown the transcript from the day before, which is the section where he said that Alison probably wouldn't have had sex with him if she'd have known he was an undercover officer. And I mean, this led him to one of his many kind of disgusting sections where he was asked if he ever lost track of who he was. He said no, he never lost track of who he was. Which it sounds awful to say, but I found quite reassuring, because we've had to listen to a lot of bullshit on that topic from a great many undercover officers who start going, "Oh, I just didn't know who I was." He was. I mean, thankfully, he didn't have the shame, the show pads to try and pull that off. And he admitted that that he was just playing the role to the full. He was just doing the role fully. We were shown an annual review of his performance, which was written by Bob Lambert, very glowing about his abilities. And it was very clear that Lambert knew about the sexual relationship by this point. And it included a lot of coded language, which I think, credit to David Barr, he kind of went through and sort of decoded very well, I think, for onlookers. It referred to the cohabiting as a difficulty turned into an advantage. And that Mark Jenner was able to balance the operational requirements against domestic responsibilities. Jenner claimed that he never spoke to Lambert about this report. He claimed this was the first time he'd seen it. He denied that he was able to balance his domestic responsibilities. He said he wasn't able to relax or have an acceptable family life when he was cohabiting with Alison, which, yeah, my heart bleeds. We were shown a SDS file note of the 31st of July about touchy subject, which was... Good afternoon. Oh, look, I didn't mean to do that. Hang on. That was me. I've got some clips ready to show, and that shouldn't have started. Technical difficulties abound, as ever. So we'll show one of these. We refer to him as touchy subject. For those who aren't familiar, touchy subject was his code name, which, though they deny it, I mean, it seems like all these code names were some sort of in joke. So the file note was submitted by HN58. It's about a conversation between John Webb and Noel War and Bernard Greenhammy. And basically, it's about how Mark Jenner was told that he ought not to give evidence in court. And we got into this discussion about this plan, the supposed plan by Jamie. But it was about somehow there's a plan that he was going to commit an offence with a group, that it was decided that he was going to go the distance, whatever happened with this plan by Jamie, which doesn't end up going to fruition, but that he was told very directly by his managers that he was to go ahead, maintain cover, get arrested if it happens, and that the back office would sort it out, take it to the trial. The report claimed that he was now living with two anarchist activists, and it appears that this was because he might be put on surveillance as part of this criminal conspiracy. So there was a lot of code in there to hide the fact that he was cohabiting. So these two anarchists, I mean, I'm sure it was a great surprise to you to find out that you were an anarchist, Alison.
Yeah, I mean, some of that stuff, it's terrible to say, but I have to say that there was so much nonsense about it. I zoned out for some of that. Sure. It's funny listening to you say it now. It's like, oh yeah, I sort of vaguely remember that. Yeah, I don't think I followed some of that properly. I mean, but yes, I was never an anarchist. So.
No, and there was just one of you. As I understand it, perhaps someone else was you had someone staying at the flat right at the beginning who he used as the basis for this other activist who he was living with.
Yeah, but that was a friend who I worked with. Do you know what I mean? And
yeah.
It was for the other weird thing about his timing of it all is that he said he moved in like much earlier than I said he moved in. That was weird as well.
Yeah, that was very strange because he was quite adamant about it as well.
Yeah, he was. I don't know what that was about. It was weird. Yeah. I think that's about the lies he told his family, probably.
Yeah, the fact that it was all just part of the plan from the beginning, almost like he just started.
He was there all the time, but I know when he moved in because it was in my diary. And it's the same bloody date in their stupid reports.
Yeah.
So I know when he kind of moved out of his. I don't know what that's about. Or maybe it's about. I don't know.
So yeah, this report claims that Bob Lambert had spoken at length with Jenner about the operational advantages of living with activists, and then goes to list the personal advantages of living with Alison. To which Jenner says, yeah, no, there was lots of personal advantages, and that both he and Bob felt it was good for the operation and good for him, which, I mean, it was particularly one of many gross moments. He said Lambert was perfectly relaxed about the relationship with Alison and did not disapprove. So Barr points out that the report is false, but once you decode it, it's clear it's saying that Jenner was cohabiting with Alison, and that it was good for the operation. He was asked what the impact cohabiting had on his home life. He claimed it didn't make a significant difference. At the time, this is what he claimed. He said no, he realizes now that wasn't true, and that he wasn't devoting enough time at home. He was asked how it impacted his relationship with his wife. So he said it wasn't any difference either. He said before that he was sleeping alone in his Duff flat. So, it didn't affect his relationship with his wife, the fact he was sleeping with another woman. He did, I mean, when he was pushed on this, he said it was a hell of a strain, the duplicity of deceiving his wife. He claimed that he loved his wife, and that it was abhorrent, but he buried it. He referred to it as the whole Alison thing. But he said that it accelerated throughout his time in the SDS. He said he treated it as a short time and was always watching the clock, counting down the 4 years, hoping there was good times ahead, because it was such a difficult thing to do. But
it looked difficult, didn't it? In the photos, didn't it? Look
Well, quite, yes.
Barbecues at my family, weddings, bar mitzvahs, really hard.
Yeah. So he says he wasn't fully forthcoming with Lambert about the holidays. And in the report, it mentions that he's got 3 weeks away with his family, which in reality was spending 3 weeks with you in Israel. He says by the end of those 3 weeks in Israel, Lambert was informed of the full truth of the holidays. He claimed he went on a family. There was some debate about this. He seems to be easily confused, but he claimed he went on a family holiday in 1995, but it was a disaster because he was in his persona. So he decided he would take his annual leave with Alison instead to stay in his persona. He said he had to take his annual leave. He didn't have any choice. He had to go on holiday, and he couldn't go on holiday with his family, so he had to go on holiday with you.
It's such rubbish, particularly given that thing that he said. It doesn't add up. He can't have it both ways. You can't say he didn't forget who he was, and yet he had to go away with me. Do you know what I mean? It's like, if you didn't forget who you were, well, then why weren't you going away with your family?
Right.
And the whole Israel thing, was this the nonsense about Israel?
Yeah, this is the next thing that comes up. Yeah, so I mean, he was meant to go to Israel for 3 weeks, but it didn't happen. He claimed that he saw. I mean, it was such a fantastical story. When I was tweeting it as it went on, I just referred to seeing rocket fire on the border with Lebanon. But I mean, it was a lot more complex than that. What he was describing.
I want to watch. I haven't watched back day 3. I've watched back the last hour of day 2. But I want to see this again, because I think it's we need, not now, but at some point we need to kind of clip it a little bit, because I think it is a perfect example of somebody talking complete bullshit.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like a lie that he told at the time about what happened, that he's repeated so many times that he almost believes it himself.
But the idea, I mean, do you want to explain what he says?
Yeah, so essentially, I mean, it starts off. He claims that you were somewhere near the border with Lebanon. He saw some basically like something out of Apocalypse Now come overhead. That he got very ill, and that he had to go to hospital. He claimed that nobody in Israel spoke any English in the hospital. He had pneumonia and lost a stone in weight. Had to come home early. But yeah, his description of being like he makes out like nobody in Israel had any understanding of the English language at all.
But also, don't they say that we were in a campsite and
yes,
camping with Palestinians?
Yes,
it's bollocks. It's complete bollocks. I mean, I know people, some people watching this, and I know it's been kind of, there were some comments on social media, and I've seen this before, where people went, "Do you mean that Alison went to the West Bank. The West Bank. Surely she didn't go to Israel. I did go to Israel. I'm Jewish. I've got friends in Israel, family in Israel. We did go to Israel. We were not the campsite we were staying in, as I remember. You know, it was an Israeli campsite. I'm not saying there weren't any kind of, you know, Israeli Arabs, Israeli Palestinians there, but it was an Israeli campsite, and the idea that any doctor in Israel or Palestine actually doesn't speak English is so preposterous. Do you know what I mean? Like, I remember the doctor. I've got a letter where he puts the name of the doctor, a letter that for the insurance, because we've got insurance back, travel insurance, where he puts the name of the doctor, and he was so grateful to that doctor because who signed him off. I mean, the whole questioning around Israel, I don't know whether David Barr wasn't properly briefed or whether, you know, when I was talking to my husband about this, he was like, why does it matter? And it's like, well, it doesn't matter for my story, right? For it really doesn't matter. Do you know what I mean? The most important things actually, as I've said before, like about the relationships and about whatever, it's been proved. But there's just like a kind of for me, there's a curiosity about the whole Israel story because what also didn't add up, his wife, S, when she gave evidence, and it's something maybe Bob Lambert's going to be asked about, I hope. The point was, we came back early. We weren't medically repatriated. You can't get on a bloody plane if you've got pneumonia without a nurse and a load of oxygen. I didn't know that at the time, but I know that now. You either have to have a proper flight, a specific like medical flight, or you have to have like oxygen provided with some medical person there. We didn't have any of that. And when we came back, I think on a weekend, the next day he went to work, quote unquote. And I was like, what are you doing? You've got pneumonia, you need to rest. And he was like, no, I'll be fine. Don't worry, I'll take it easy, I'll be fine. And he went, and you know, he was very persuasive, as we know. So he went to work. When he went to work throughout our 5 years, that meant most of the time he went home. And yet his wife, if you remember from her evidence, I know it wasn't broadcast, but for those of us who are in the room and you tweeted it, she said he came back and he made a real point of showing her the letter from the doctor saying he had pneumonia. And then he said to her, so I have to stay in my duff flat with the activists because they know I've got pneumonia. That's who I went with. They're going to wonder where I am. I need to stay there. So she didn't see him for, I'm going to say 6 weeks, but I think it was longer than that. But she didn't see him for a lot. He didn't go home. So my question is, where did he go?
Yeah, and we just didn't get an answer to that at all.
No, we didn't. And you know, maybe he went on another holiday with one of his mates. I don't know, but I don't feel like he did look. And I know he said he didn't take it, but the video when we were in Israel is gone, and that I took video footage of him in hospital, and that's gone. So it's really fucking weird.
Yes, it's incredibly weird. It's incredibly weird, and it's like it's clear that he's hiding something.
Yes, I mean the way he told that story.
Yeah,
he's flicking his, and I haven't seen it back. He's red faced. He's like in full flow. He's in full. You know that thing where if you're going to lie, you're going to lie big.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not even. I know you said you think that's the story that he told, and that's what he stuck to. Maybe that's the case, but I'm not even sure it is that. I mean, and the questions are, I suppose, did Israeli security services know that they had a special branch operative on their soil, or did they not know? And either way, there's questions about that, isn't there?
There are a lot of questions about that.
Given I mean, that we know from Trevor Morris that special branch had an Israel desk.
Yep. Where he and the relationships with the security forces of foreign governments appear to be close. We certainly know that from Trevor Morris in terms of BOSS, the South African security services. I mean, I would say when it comes to international relations, this is an area that is often
talk about, do they?
We're best not getting too far into for fear of me being banned. But
no, that's you're right. Yeah, I know.
But the Trevor Morris stuff is all on record.
Restrictions. There's no. I mean, I can then say, I went to Israel and something
Oh, yes.
dodgy went on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not dodgy, but like,
Yeah.
there's something that is not, that people, they don't want to, it feels like there's not really any, and again, it may not, I mean, you know, I don't know where it gets us really, except that it's just frustrating because the whole point about this is that it would be good to have some answers, and that is that when you don't get an answer, you kind of want to push a bit more to see what it was. It's weird. It's just weird.
Yeah.
You know, and also why would he? I don't remember all that gunfire and whatever he said in the Lebanon border. We did go up to the Lebanon border. I don't remember any of that. I don't know what he's talking about, unless he's trying to pretend that he was like in this semi-feverish, fever dream, deluded state. Is that what he was trying to say?
I mean, I think there was a suggestion of that, but also it was, and partially it was because he had informed the back office, including Bob Lambert, supposedly, that this 3 weeks was him taking a family holiday with his wife and children, and that he only informed them that in fact he'd been away with you to Israel when he got back. To which Bob Lambert supposedly said to him, "Well, you could have told me." So the idea, so I mean, essentially that he's given some story to them about it, which is
also, Tom, we went El Al, we flew El Al, and you know, I know I've said this before, but like, you know, they're quite rigorous. They're rigorous if you're Jewish and you've been there loads of times, you've got friends and family there. They give you a hard time then. If you're not Jewish and you're born in Dublin on your passport, they're really vile. I mean, they're really like, and he just got waved, as I remember. I mean, my memory is not like, you know, I'm not saying that, but I don't remember him being given a really hard time at all.
Yeah.
On either way. I mean, maybe coming back, you know, if he had pneumonia, maybe that, I don't know, but I don't remember him being like really grilled.
Yeah. It's a very dodgy area of his evidence, and like you say, it didn't feel like Barr wanted to push him too far on it.
No.
Yeah. So they carried on going through this report. The report talks about how Jenna was promoting a viable alternative to the traditional SDS officer method of living alone. It said that other officers in the anarchist field had been living with activists, which is very much a subtext to the fact that they were having sex with women they were deceiving. It was noted that Jenna was giving Alison £250 a month from funds for bills at the flat. He was asked at this point if he was a deep swimmer, to which he looked very pleased with himself and claimed, that wasn't something to aspire to, but I mean, clearly did. He said that being so deep undercover was a sign of professional success. He said he only had a short time to do the very best that he could in his target area. He admitted he was paid a significant amount of overtime whilst deployed, and it was put to him that he was paid to deceive Alison, both physically and emotionally. He said that Alison was loving and kind to him, that he benefited from regular sex, had a nice home, was well fed, welcomed into her family, and that she was in love with him. He said he had a really enjoyable time, and it was a really enjoyable lifestyle.
That's nice.
I mean, I thought that was incredibly, you know. It said a great deal about, you know, actually his motivations. He said
particularly given that on day one he said it was only professional benefits, didn't he?
Yeah. But I mean, that's clearly wasn't the case. He claimed that he put out of his mind. Remember, this is like 20 minutes after he says that, you know, he was counting down, he was clock watching the whole 4 years and looking forward to better times ahead. And he then said he was putting out of his mind that he was going to leave Alison when his deployment ended, and that of course he felt bad about it, but you've got to suppress that. And it was the same for S. He didn't end the relationship with Alison any sooner because it benefited him. He then claimed that he ended up loving her, but he admitted it was a callous deception. He had a terrible foreboding about his deployment ending in 1999. He said he was in an awful dilemma about the relationship with Alison ending and going back to the relationship with his wife. He said it was hellish, and he had no one to talk to.
Can I say as well, my other thought about day the turnaround on day 3 is, you know, given that they're all of these cops, their first instinct is self-preservation. And when I spoke to him in 2019, he said something like, well, I could get nicked. And I was like, what for? Like, you know, you're not going to get nicked for anything. If we go back to the CPS decision about not prosecuting these officers because they were based on genuine feelings, it does beg the question, doesn't it, to what extent by the end of day 2 he suddenly was reminded of that.
Yeah.
And that if he doesn't suddenly express some so-called genuine feelings, he is leaving himself open, and the CPS to revisit that kind of decision and think, actually, hang on, we've got someone here who is saying it was purely, you know, professional benefits and there were no personal motivation at all. So he did need to, you know, he needed to dig up some so-called genuine feelings, didn't he?
I mean, he did it so clumsily, though, because it was so contradictory to things that he'd said, not just on previous days, but earlier that same day. You know, I mean, I don't know. I mean, like, it didn't wash with me. I don't know. I mean, like, I didn't think it was very convincing. I mean, he talked about how depressed he was after he left, and that your attempts to contact him made him feel worse. He said that when he heard you on an interview on Radio 4, he was very relieved to hear that you'd since had a family, which, again, I didn't find credible the way that he was saying it. And then we got to this thing about, I mean, do you want to talk us through it? I mean, when you contacted him while he was walking the Pennine Way in Northumberland.
Yeah. Which bit? Sorry, it's one of the best moments. That I can't remember what he said in the evidence. I mean,
essentially, I mean, he said he was really shocked. He said he only spoke to you on the phone for his own benefit. He mentioned that you asked him questions, but he told you that he'd answer at the inquiry. And he was fair play to you for tracking him down. I mean,
he didn't say that, did he? He didn't
no.
Say that, like...
Oh, he did say. I mean, maybe not the phrase "fair play." I mean, that's very much my language. But you know, he gave credit to you for tracking him down.
Oh, thanks.
It was this point he was asked if he would like to apologise to you. To which he said he was willing to speak to you in private, but wouldn't give a public apology.
Yeah, what's that about?
I mean, it was just, you know, the fact.
I think that actually, I mean, thinking about it now, I think that is again about the liability thing.
Yeah, I think so as well. I think so as well.
About, you know, whatever was in private stays in private, but like if it's public, then actually, you know, it's like if you crash your car into someone, isn't it? You don't say sorry. Yeah.
Literally. I mean, I think that's a perfect analogy. Because he was asked if he is sorry, to which he said, in hindsight, it was a cruel thing to do.
Yeah.
He didn't dispute any of the holidays that you went on together. We were shown the authorizations for him to travel outside the Met Police area. He said, "Oh yeah, that was all the things in it about going on Colin Roach Centre meetings in Derbyshire and Cornwall were nonsense. He was going on holiday." But he came at the start of his deployment. The reason he got these things is he was misleading the back office about why he was travelling, and he said that he was doing that purely because he had an old van, and if it broke down, he was covered. So he was just covering himself. We were shown the travel authority to Cumbria from January '97, about going to the Lake District, and he's asked, well, why is he misleading the office by this stage? Because suppose that this is after the trip to Israel. And he said he's not sure why he bothered to mislead the office by this stage, but he clearly did for some reason. He says he used his cover passport on all his foreign travel with you, and didn't take any steps to conceal. He said that his managers weren't concerned about that at all. He said he was always in dispute with the back office about his expenses, and that he always had to top up his account with his wages because the expenses weren't enough. They had plenty of money sloshing around, it would appear. He says that his senior managers were not informed of his foreign travel. Bob Lambert knew, He says he split the costs with Alison. He said his half would come from his salary. We then went to a break where I sat down with Dave Smith and did a recap of what we've heard. I did think about doing these videos and playing those videos in this video, but I think that's probably unnecessary and superfluous.
It's quite meta, isn't it?
It's quite meta, yeah. I think I won't bother doing that. But it's online. It's on the Campaign Opposing Police Surveillance YouTube channel. I think Dave Smith, as ever, has got plenty to say, which is useful and is worth watching. We came back from the break. He was asked if on the shorter breaks he was on duty and the longer breaks were his annual leave. He said that, yeah, that was the case. He said that his wife would take her holidays on her own, which isn't entirely true. She was going with the children, but he didn't seem to kind of note the fact that she would. He made it sound like, well, she got her own breaks. She went on holiday on her own when I went on holiday with a woman I was deceiving. But I mean, it was pointed out to him that no, she was taking the children on holiday and looking after them and doing all the social reproduction that's required of that, which he was, obviously opting out of. He said that S knew that he was going away, but she didn't realize it was part of his annual leave. He would tell her that he was going with activists, but wouldn't mention it was with the woman he was in a relationship with. He said that before they moved house, S was okay with holidaying separately, but after the move, she had less support system and she was less happy about it. But she just saw it as part of his work. And I mean, that correlates with what she said. She just assumed that he was doing work. He said that no manager ever traveled with him on any of his overseas trips as cover. And that, in fact, there wasn't even anybody who traveled with him to the north of Ireland when you went to the north of Ireland. He was asked about the missing home videos and diaries. He claimed that he didn't take any of them. He was then asked about how much he was integrated into Alison's family life. He said he took no issue with anything that she said. I mean, this is something we've seen from so many of the undercover officers.
Yeah.
Of like, oh, whatever she says, as if like it might not be true, but I wouldn't want to argue with the lady, sort of style of point.
Yeah.
So he agrees he spent Christmas '97 with you and your relations, whilst his wife and children were on their own. He called it a horrible dilemma, but said that you can't get emotional about family matters, which is a very strange sentence.
I know.
So he said he spent Christmas with Alison because it was too much to pull away from his deployment for Christmas. Which, I mean, I don't know. Would it have been weird? Would it have been possible for him to get away?
He was away for one or two of the Christmases. I mean, it would have been weird.
Yeah.
He could have. I mean, he could have gone to. It would have been weird. It was too. It would have been hard for him. Hard. Sure. I mean, when I say hard, he'd come too deep, hadn't he? Come too far by that point. I mean, the first couple maybe, but by year 4 and 5, I think it would have been weird.
So yeah, I mean, he did spend the millennium, New Year's Eve, with you and family, and he was asked if this caused him any reflection. To which he said, oh yeah, he should have been with his family, and that he was particularly unhappy at the time. He said by that stage, his wife was expecting him not to be there, so there wasn't even like any sort of discussion about it. He says he was looking at the final few months of his deployment when he spent the millennium with you. He said, with the benefit of hindsight, he was asked, do you not think this maybe tainted the memory of that moment, this once in a lifetime moment for Alison? So he went, oh yeah, it probably did. He answered that as if he hadn't considered that before, which I don't think he had. He said the issue of children made it a depressing time in the relationship, and that the experience of exfiltration was a miserable experience for both of them. We were shown the property deed of your brother, which Jenna witnessed.
Yeah, that was my brother, my stepbrother.
Sorry,
that was mad, wasn't it?
Yeah, very strange. Yeah, he says he didn't give it a second thought at the time.
Yeah.
It was pointed out by Barr that by this point the Colin Roach Centre had closed. He was very well established in his cover identity, and then he had no need to be in a relationship with you in order to fulfill his role as an undercover officer. To which he pointed out there were still benefits that he still needed, and he didn't want to let go. And he was asked what was the primary benefit, his own comfort and satisfaction, and he said yes. It was pointed out by Barr that it was at her expense, to which he had went yes, and it was pointed out how cruel this was, to which he had to also agree. He was asked about the time that he came home and told you about a boiler nearly blowing up, which he says he can't remember ever talking about the birth of his child in coded language.
An oven. It was an oven.
An oven, sorry, an oven.
Yeah.
This was he managed to do a breach around this point, which I didn't. I was very good and went nowhere near any reporting around. And I think I didn't report on some other things around it either, for fear of annoying the restriction gods. So there might be some details here that I'm missing out. So he disputed the timeline about when he started going to couple counselling. This is one of these things where he got very pernickety about some very strange things. And he was he was adamant that the timeline that you presented of going to couple counselling was wrong. He said that he found the whole process very cathartic.
Yeah, I know.
And it gave him a chance to exploit his cover identity. He said he cynically got to get one over on the counsellor and do his job well. Which, I mean, it's quite something to admit, really, that, you know, you could have got a thrill out of fooling someone who's there to help you into who you really are. Yeah. He went to 3 SDS Christmas parties.
Sorry, Tom, to say, I think the reason he's contesting the timeline of the counsellor is, again, it's a bit like when they dig down into things like what seem pretty trivial details. I think that is to do with the lies that they're telling other people.
Yes, yeah, that makes sense.
Do you know what I mean? I don't know who or what, but it's like they can't be telling one story to one set of people and then suddenly in the inquiry go, well, actually, no, you're right. Actually, it was that. Do you know what I mean? It's like because then they've got to go back to those people and say, I wasn't telling you the truth then. And I think on balance, it's easier for them to tell one story where they can.
Yeah.
And keep whatever that story is, which is what you're saying about the Israel stuff as well, maybe, that's what he said, so that's what he's sticking to.
Yeah. And I mean, I think particularly I think also the way that it works, if you're going to be a professional liar, I mean, this is just cod psychology that I've heard from lots of places, is that you lie to yourself until you believe it, and then you repeat it as if it's true, and that's how you become a convincing liar. So I think there may be like a fair bit of that going on. So he went to 3 Christmas parties with his wife of the SDS. He says a number of his colleagues at these parties knew that he was in a sexual relationship with Alison, but he didn't find this awkward at all. He admitted his treatment of his wife was a gross betrayal. It was put to him that her evidence was misogyny starts at home, to which he said he didn't understand.
Say that again.
So it was obviously her evidence was that misogyny starts at home, and this was put to him that that his treatment was a sign of his misogyny. He said that he didn't understand what that meant. So Barr had to explain to him that he was treating his wife like a doormat. His response to that was she knew he was living a double life.
Right.
It was put to him that he was putting his personal gratification and his police career over his wife, which he admitted was true. He was asked why on his child's birth certificate, his job, the child that was born whilst he was deployed undercover, why his job was listed as joiner, which was his undercover identity's cover job. And he said this was purely because he didn't want to, in that room at the Southwark registrars or whatever it is where you register names, that he didn't want to admit to being a police officer in that particular council office, which, I mean, I don't know why you would draw attention to the fact that of what your cover job is in. Do you know what I mean? Like, Why mix up? Why put details of your undercover identity? Surely that's equally bad. We were shown the withdrawal strategy document. He said he had no input into this document. It says in there that he was displaying antisocial behaviour in his cover address to his housemates. To which Jenna said, "Oh, that was partially correct, except he was being antisocial towards the woman he was in a relationship with, not his housemates." He said that Sergeant Steve Tiddy should have known he was living with Alison, but he doesn't think he did. And he said that he doesn't think that Tiddy was covering up in the document because he doesn't think that Tiddy was capable of anything so complex. It was very clear that he had no respect whatsoever for Sergeant Steve Tiddy, which he seemed to be like scoring some points on how thick Tiddy was at this point.
Yeah.
He started talking about how he was displaying signs of mental distress in his relationship. He says it was stress overload. He says he didn't tell Tiddy about the relationship because he didn't think that Tiddy was up to the job and up to hearing that sort of level of information. The document said that Jenna would be moving to Luton, away from everything he knows and loves, and that Jenna's like very clear that Tiddy's not subtly inferring anything here because he wouldn't have known, and he hasn't got the ability to be subtle. He called the exfiltration document colourful, ridiculous language. He admitted he wanted flexibility and control in his withdrawal. And he says he was preoccupied about how it would pan out. He says he knew he was going to hurt Alison. But then he also said he did not consider how Alison would have been affected by his leaving in the context of how her previous partner had died. He says with hindsight, he still doesn't see how in any way it was a compounding factor. Which I feel terrible saying these things to him because it's such an awful, it was so fucking awful. The man is so awful.
Yeah. It's fine. I mean, the thing is that there's a lot to say, isn't there? First of all, I have processed a lot of it, all of it, actually. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I've written this contributed to this book, written another book, I've written a lot. I've talked a lot. I've been involved in this since, 25 odd years, and like for how many years with all the other women since 2011.
Yeah, 15 years.
Yeah, a long time. And since the inquiry, I've seen a lot of, I haven't watched every cop's evidence, but I've seen a lot of them.
Most of it.
Yeah. And my expectations of how they behave, and like I came to an understanding a long time ago. They care about themselves. That's it. When I met having met his wife, one of the really good things about having given evidence and giving evidence in December, and then is that we can be open now about the fact that we've, myself and his ex-wife have got about that. But as soon as I met her, as soon as we started to kind of talk about stuff, it became so obvious that she was absolutely lovely, absolutely lovely. And the fact that, never mind what he did to me, but the fact that he did that to her really highlighted that this is a man with, extremely limited, if any, emotional capacity. Like all of them. And he can say, oh, it was cruel what I did, but I loved her. But, those two concepts don't really mix. You know what I mean? Love is about kindness and about caring and about putting that other person first and yada, yada, yada. But the kind of, the cruelty and the sadism and the duplicitousness and the deceit and all of that, it just points to, as we've said right from the outset, sexual gratification, perk of the job, and personal benefits, and professional. It would, I'll concede. I'm sure I helped us cover. Like,
well, that landline.
I'm not surprised by any of it. I'm just not surprised by any of it. And I don't, fortunately for me, I have, I've got quite a full life, and a big family and lots of friends, and I'm fine. And I have, for whatever reasons, managed to kind of come out the other side of it.
Mm.
But and the biggest reason, I think, one of the big reasons I've come out the other side is because, you know, the dark years that I had 25 years ago, were about trying to prove what he was and prove that I wasn't going mad.
Yeah.
And everything since then, since meeting Helen in 2003 and then meeting the other women in 2011, everything since then, and now this, is just further validation and affirmation of that. So, you know, I don't need to have it broken to me gently that probably he didn't love you, like probably he was using you, and like, really sorry, but like he probably didn't. Sorry. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He may, you know, maybe in his funny little world he thinks he did. I mean, you know, who knows what he thinks? But as I said, it doesn't matter. That stuff really, you know, the personal stories are really important ways into understanding the impact and the damage and the concrete reality of what they did. But, you know, you've got to hold the two things at the same time. And I don't feel comfortable. You know, I know that when I gave evidence on whenever it was, December or whatever, I had to go into great detail about, you know, the relationship. And generally, I pivot away from that and I talk about the, you know, the systemic nature of the abuse, the other women, the campaign for justice now and the campaign for changing legislation so that it doesn't happen to other people again. And you have to hold the two things.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to kind of wallow in, you know, my victimhood. It was a bastard, a complete bastard. And you know, that, and also I think, like, if I had to answer that psychological question about which of those two people we saw, you know, the man on day 1 and 2 or the man on day 3, which of those is the real Mark Jenner? Could the real Mark Jenner please stand up? It's probably both.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We all present different bits of ourselves to different people at different times.
Yeah.
He's probably both. He is that nasty, racist, sexist bastard on day 1 and 2. And it is probably, like, you know, with the wind blowing in the right direction and he's well fed and he's had a drink, it's probably quite nice company. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, so he's both, isn't he?
Yeah, I think he's both, and also he's probably neither as well, in a similar sort of way. Yeah, they're both false masks in their own way.
Yeah.
You know, because he's probably in reality a very frightened little boy at his heart. You know what I mean?
Oh, that's deep, Tom.
But yeah, so we were then shown the letter about leaving. He admitted it was to further his exfiltration, but also to ease his conscience. In it were included some sections like, "When I said I loved you, I meant it. I have never deceived you or cheated on you." He claims he did love you. He admits he always deceived you, but and did nothing but cheat on you. He said that that there was another restriction order around this time. He thought about Alison all the time after leaving. He accepts that he was just stringing you along by saying that, about always thinking of you. Barr read from the letter just before break to say, "I realize I have hurt a lot of people through what I've done to you, but I can only say I am not a cunning, evil bastard." Barr asked Jenner, does he maintain that denial? To which Jenner said, "Of course I was." To which Barr wasn't satisfied. He said, "Of course you were what?" To which he said, "I was a cunning, evil bastard." To which Barr turned to the chair and said, "Should we go to lunch?"
Yeah.
Which was, I mean, Bard is most theatrical and yeah, very good. Over the lunch, I did a recap video with the noted professor of Marxist historian Mary Davis, who's a personal friend of yours, as well as being a insightful writer and lecturer on Marxist history on a whole bunch of topics. I think it's a really good video. I think like these little videos I do in the breaks, often it's the same revolving cast of people who were affected, and I think they're really useful. But I think it's always really good when you get someone who is clearly an expert in another field who comes along. And it was her first time at the hearings, and she had quite a bit to say about not just what we were hearing from Jenna, but the whole process in itself. I'd recommend.
And she's also one of the directors of Police Spies Out of Life.
Yes, she is. She is. Yes, and it's also quite funny. So I'd recommend checking out the video if you get the opportunity. So then back from the break, he was asked about the fact that he didn't report on you at all. And it was pointed out that you were involved in the Colin Roach Centre, many campaigns. He said he couldn't answer why the fact that you're not mentioned in any of his reports. He says it wasn't deliberate. And he was asked if he didn't consider her involvement to be significant. He says that you weren't a regular at meetings, but he claimed not to be dismissive. And I think like Barr really gets to the sort of the point that like clearly he's so bloody sexist that any woman's involvement was not particularly of interest.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, I kind of believe him that he didn't write you out of it because he was sleeping with you. He wrote you out of it because you're a woman.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't appear to write about any other female characters much at all either. Yeah. We were shown the recommendation for accommodation letter, which mentions that his deployment work interfered with his usual leave, which he denied shows that it was known he was taking leave in an unusual way. He tried to play down the significance of this recommendation for commendation.
Do you know what I think that?
Why is that?
Because I think that they know that we're trying to get them removed.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
So I think it's like it's not a big deal. We can keep it because it's like nothing. It's like I mean, if you try to remove this accommodation, it'll be like embarrassing for you.
Yeah.
Because do you know what I mean? It's like because it's really not a big deal. It's like it's just like getting a tick like on your performance review. It's nothing. Really nothing.
Yeah. That makes perfect sense.
I think that's why they're
Yeah. It makes sense.
You don't understand, you guys, you civvies, you don't understand how it works.
Yeah. So he was a mentor. Nearly all the undercover officers were mentors for later officers. He was mentor for the SDS officer Carlo Soracci.
That's nice, isn't it? That was nice.
Yeah. It's funny how these things are so connected.
Passing on the baton.
Passing on the baton, yeah. He claims he never talked to him about having sex whilst undercover, but he did talk to him about Steve Headley and how Steve Headley was violent. He was asked if he ever saw Steve Headley being violent. He said no, he never saw him being violent, but he knew he was violent because he was known to be violent. We were shown an SDS office note about the suggestion of the possibility of having external people pretend to be a boyfriend or girlfriend of an undercover officer. And in it mentions touchy subject as having an impeachable lifestyle for this in his deployment. So it's clear from the wording that the author of this document is Steve Tiddy, who Jenna clearly doesn't like. And it's very clear from the way this is written that he was very much aware that Jenna was in a sexual relationship whilst undercover. Jenna says, he doesn't know if he did, after being adamant that he definitely didn't earlier on. And he said the same goes for HN53, for Macintosh, and for Webb. He says that Noel Ward knew. We then shown a file note by HN53 saying that Alison had rung Jenna's cover work. It says that Jenna was really relaxed about it. And this is where Jenna claims to HN53 that Alison was a one-time girlfriend of Mark Metcalf. So this is around the time that he reappears. He says he went back after his exit to gauge the reaction of people, not just Alison, the reaction of other people as well. We were shown a file note about Terry, who is this Mark Jenner's cover employer, who spoke to Lambert about you trying to track him down. So there's a lot of detail about a road traffic accident following the attempts by you to find Jenna and using a private investigator. I got very confused by a lot of this. I wasn't really sure if all this stuff was part of his cover-up of the relationship or something that really happened. I really don't know.
The car accident did happen. Well,
okay.
It was like a little bump. It wasn't really an accident.
Well, okay. Jenna says he was very open with Jim Boyling about his relationship with Alison, as Boyling had seen them together in the street. He was asked his understanding about HN81, HN3, and HN60 about having sexual relationships whilst they were deployed. He pointed out that they managed to do it sustainably, so why couldn't he? They showed it was possible to do. He was, I mean, this I think was the most telling, and I think probably the clip which kind of sums up all these officers. He was asked if it had been a criminal offence to have sex with a member of the public whilst deployed undercover, would you have done so? He said, if it had been a criminal offence to have sex with a member of the public whilst deployed undercover, I would have never joined the SDS.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that says it all, really. I don't think, I mean, he was quite pleased with himself when he said that. I don't think
he doesn't mean what we mean by that.
No, he doesn't. No, he don't. But he's, I mean, he's admitted, you know, I don't think we're confused about what he means. I think he's just confused about what that actually says about himself.
Yeah. I mean, he's basically saying he couldn't do the job. He's saying the job's not doable if you don't.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The job's, he's saying the job's not doable unless you're able to do that. But I mean, it's also the fact that he was very much attracted to the job. He said at length how he was keen to be the best, and that involved doing this job. That it shows that he always knew that he was going to have the opportunity to have sex with members of the public whilst deployed undercover.
Have you seen Slow Horses?
I haven't. I'm not a tally gid.
Because there's a line in season 2. It's about they're like MI5 reject. They're right. MI5, right?
Yeah.
Kind of like they've made a mistake and they're in a but they're in a shitty bit of MI5.
Right.
And one of the boss says to one of the agents, have you given her one? And he says, no, that doesn't, like, we can't, have you read the ethics handbook or something like that? And the boss says, ethics, if they bring ethics into what we do, they have to shut us down. And I know it's a drama.
Sure.
It's like fiction.
Yeah.
But that's basically what Jenna was implying, wasn't it? Like,
yeah.
If you make that illegal, you can't do it. I wouldn't join, you can't do the job.
Yeah. So we were shown a risk management meeting with SO15 from the 7th of February 2011 about the article about Jenna that appeared on Indie Media. In that meeting, Jenna says he never had a relationship with Alison. He claims that you dated other named men. He admits that it was a stream of lies that he told SO15 at that meeting about the communal phone. He lied about the credit card. He lied about who he went on holiday with. He lied about the couple counselling, the drug use, about having a sexual relationship. And he says he lied because he didn't care. Which, I mean, I think this was partially that thing if he knew he was getting towards the finish line. And he's like, I didn't care, like some sort of like petulant child. So why have you done this? I don't care. Yeah. He admitted he is a man who lies regularly when it comes to SDS matters, which is a stupid thing to say on oath when you're giving evidence on SDS matters at a public inquiry. Just basics. So we were shown the disciplinary charge sheet from July 2013. It's pointed out to him that he knew if he admitted to risk assessors in 2011, he had sex with a member of the public, he would be opening himself up to misconduct charges. He says he was lying to his fellow police because he was trying to hold out for as long as he could, despite the amount of publicity that was coming out. He says he knew that if he'd been honest to the risk assessors, he would have been investigated and possibly sacked. He admitted his lies to risk assessors saved him from a gross misconduct dismissal. He admits this delayed justice for Alison, but he wasn't thinking about her. He warned his wife that there was going to be an article in The Guardian about him being an SDS officer. He didn't tell her about the relationship. He admitted he never told her about the relationship. And it was put to him by Barr that this was moral cowardice on his behalf, to which he admitted. He admitted that he led his wife to believe that he was infiltrating actual terrorists. He says she knew there was an Irish element to his deployment, and that he knew that she thought it was more serious than it actually was. It was pointed out by Barr that he was letting his wife think she was under much more of a threat than she actually was. He didn't acknowledge that point. He had to. He blatantly just admitted to it, but actually what that meant, he didn't seem at all comfortable with. We were shown the Operation Hearn interview with Jenner from 2013. In it, he denies acting in any way contrary to the law or in breach of the standards of professional behaviour of the SDS. Effectively, it's a no-comment interview. The report on the Operation Hearn interview with Jenner makes it clear that everything he did as an SDS officer was with the knowledge and the approval of his line managers. It was put to him that he was acting outside the law. He said because he was in the SDS, everything he did as an undercover officer was within the law. He said that he was told by John Webb, you could do pretty much what you wanted apart from kill anybody.
That was a good line.
Such a line. He said he was covered because he was an SDS officer, and being inside the SDS meant everything he did was inside the law. He said that as well as Bob Lambert and other managers knew and approved of his actions, he said the ones that he didn't tell must have got wind for it. We were shown an internal SDS document about a potential SDS candidate from 94. It said that this is about Mark Jenner, that he had initiative, integrity, self-motivation, sound judgment, and the ability to perform well. Barr just took to him and said, integrity? And to which Jenner said, oh, that just means being loyal to the unit.
Yeah, well.
He said he admitted he was a professional liar, but he said, although in the parlance of an SDS report, integrity would just mean loyalty. He admitted that he didn't demonstrate integrity in the real meaning of the word, but that he was certainly a successful professional liar. He admitted that a few times he didn't exercise sound judgment. He said he took the psychometric tests at face value and answered honestly. To which Barr pointed out this means these tests failed to detect risks. In the recruitment document, it says that Jenner was very much a family man. So he was asked what led him to behave in the way he did if he really was very much a family man. To which he replied, Mark Cassidy was a completely different person to Mark Jenner.
Yeah.
And he said, well,
that goes to that's like I'm sure we've said this before, but you know when Mark Kennedy gave evidence to the Home Affairs Select Committee in 2013, and he was questioned, if you really love Lisa, why did you lie to her? And he said, Mark Stone never lied, Lisa.
Yeah.
Like this division of self, like, which doesn't wash with any of them, but it really doesn't wash with Jenner because he said, as you said before earlier, that he hadn't lost himself. So what's he talking about?
Yeah. And in fact, Barr asks him again, are you saying that you'd lost track of who you was? And he said, oh no, I always knew who I was. I was just playing Mark Cassidy, but I was playing it to the fullest. Which, yeah.
So how can he? It doesn't. None of it makes sense, does it?
Not at all. Not at all. I mean, he just sounds like someone who's covering for himself in as many different ways as he can think of as he goes along.
Yeah.
He was inoculated against hepatitis B because he was offered it in the back office at the advice
That's nice, isn't it? That's nice of them.
Yeah. He offered it at the advice of Bob Lambert. He said it was because he was going to mix with anarchists and stay in squats. So, there was a danger of hepatitis B. As someone who spent most of his life in squats and mixing with anarchists, I've managed to avoid hepatitis B quite easily. Thanks very much. He was absolutely adamant that you got him the mobile phone, despite all the evidence to the contrary on that matter. He says the SDS couldn't provide him with a mobile phone as they were contract phones and they couldn't get one. He said that a previous SDS officer had told him to get one and then he'd had to get it himself. So he claims that you got him the mobile phone.
I don't remember that at all.
No.
I mean, look, I'm not like, I don't, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But really, I don't remember that at all. And anyway, if I got him a mobile phone in 96, why was the landline so bloody important?
Right, quite, yeah. It was pointed out to him that having a mobile phone registered in your name might put you at risk for what he was doing. He said he hadn't even thought of that. He was asked if he'd spoken to any other SDS officers about the inquiry, to which he gave a very long pause before saying yes, because obviously he wasn't meant to. He said it was nothing about the evidence he'd given today. And he was told to write down the names of the officers. He looked really pissed off that he had to do that. He looked like he was pissed off with himself, saying that he had spoke to other officers. Yeah.
I think he was really pissed off just being there.
Yeah. I think so.
I mean, I think they all are. I think they all are, but I think some of them try not to show it quite as much. I think on day 1 and day 2 in particular, he was absolutely furious. Which,
yes.
You know.
Yeah. How dare they question him on these matters?
Yeah, completely.
So that was almost the end. That was the end of the normal questions by Bar, but he did come back for some more. Then we had a really weird thing. We had a re-examination of Jenna by someone else. So it was the lawyer representing S, whose name I didn't note down at the time and has escaped me.
Angus McCulloch.
Yes, it is, and very well remembered. Angus McCulloch, indeed. That's exactly who it is. It's really interesting. There has been no re-examination of witnesses by other lawyers. People have been re-examined by their own lawyers, but by a lawyer for somebody else, unprecedented. Now, it did happen once, very briefly, when Rajiv Menon, during the very first phase of the first tranche of the inquiry, did so. He was interrupted by Mitting, who was infuriated with him about how it had panned out, and you got the impression that it wouldn't be happening again. I think it's very telling that the person who the lawyer who was representing the wife of a police officer is the one who gets to do the re-examination. That says a lot about the way in which the chair of the inquiry respects certain sorts of people in this process much more than others. But yeah, so there was the further questions from Angus McCulloch. So it was pointed out that there was he was asked if he'd been faithful to her before his deployment. He said he was. I think a lot of these questions are not necessarily particularly, they're clearly questions that were on the mind of S, that she wanted answers to. There was, he claims the Shaw Keith Edmondson came along with Bob Lambert to the first meeting, which is against what S's recollection and what the paper trail says, saying it was just Bob Lambert. He accepted S's recollection of it, though that's not how he remembered it. We were shown the SDS branch note about this recruitment. It said that all relevant inquiries have been made, which turns out was just the one home visit by Bob Lambert. He said he admitted that Lambert didn't warn S about the risk of sexual relations and an undercover role. He said he did not raise with S what Andy Coles told him about the inevitability of sex whilst undercover. He said he didn't want to concern her with that. He admits that she was kept in deliberate ignorance of risks of sex whilst he was deployed. He claims he did consider the risk of sexual health on S, so he used a condom at first. But once he got to know Alison, he trusted her, so stopped using a condom. And he said he didn't consider that a risk. He said it was put to him that a number of other of his field officers and his managers knew about the relationship. So this at the Christmas parties where S socialized with his colleagues that they knew. He says even with hindsight, he doesn't think that's awkward at all. That the fact that an event that was supposedly about the appreciation of the support of the wives was at the same time colluding in the betrayal of the wives. He says he sees the hypocrisy in hindsight, but still doesn't think it's awkward at all. I mean, I think the nature of that is because he's part of, his professional life. He has been surrounded by people who kept secrets from their wives, from what they were getting up to, and that's just pretty normal for cops.
Yeah.
It was pointed out how the change of housing was a huge downgrade to a rundown building in an isolated area. He got really annoyed with the suggestion it was run down. It was pointed out that the family holidays to Tunisia was in 97. The holiday they took in 95 was to a Greek island. It was just the two of them whilst his parents looked after the children. It seems to have been very like everybody else has a different version of which holidays he went on when to him. He was still adamant about it.
That was very weird.
Yeah. He was asked about funds. He said he used the joint account he had with his wife for the holidays with Alison. He says he withdrew the cash and then you put the cash into the custody account. He said the holidays with Alison were really nice and he had a really enjoyable time. Meanwhile, S was in a rundown house, staying with friends in Wales or in a caravan in Cornwall with the children. Christmas and New Year '98, S took the children on a holiday to Australia. This thing being brought up, I found it quite amusing. He was at all he had to do when they went away for this this holiday to Australia, his wife and children. He had to varnish the floor of the new house with 3 coats of varnish. As he was asked this question, he interrupted the question. He said, I did do it. To which Angus McLaughlin very calmly said, "You'd done 1 coat and it was still wet when she came back." Which I don't know why I found it so amusing, but I mean, like, just the fact that he couldn't do a bloody simple task. He admitted to his weekday routine of leaving Alison at 6:30 in the morning, coming back to her at 5:50. S said he was generally around a lot during the day at home. S said that felt like a good time together. He was looking after the children. It was an inside-out life, but he was very present. It was pointed out there was no reintegration required at the end of his deployment. He said that the end of his deployment was more than just a readjustment. He had to re-establish himself as a father. He accepted that S paid a far higher price than he did for his deployment. He believed it would result in a secure financial future. He said he was asked if he was going to apologize to his wife. He said he wasn't in a public arena, but he was willing to meet with her. I mean, it's very similar to what he said about you. It was pointed out that he has never apologized to his wife for his behavior. He said he hadn't spoken to her for 13 years. To which Barr said, "Moral cowardice?" To which he admitted, yes, once again, it was moral cowardice. So Barr pointed there was one further matter he wished to ask Jenna about this family holiday to Tunisia. He pointed out there was a trip to Applecross in '97. This doesn't ring any bells. We then had a break to see if there was further questions. I did a recap with Kate Wilson, which I think, as ever, Kate picks up lots of little details well worth watching. We kind of recap what we'd heard. Back from the break, these are the further questions that have come from the other lawyers representing other co-participants. Firstly, Jenna was asked about the Trevor Monaville campaign. He was asked if he remembers being introduced to John Burke Monaville, to which he says he didn't. It was pointed out that yesterday he said he had no personal benefits from being in a relationship with Alison, but today he said he had many. And now at this point he said he had no personal benefits apart from under the auspices of being an SDS officer. He was asked about this trip to Israel and when he got back, what happened. He said he was asked where he was. He said he couldn't answer. He was asked why he protected Lambert in his written statement by not admitting that he knew about the sexual relationship. He says he wasn't protecting him, but he can't explain why he wasn't forthcoming about that fact. He said that he knew that one day that Alison would think the worst of him, but he says, but also he said that he never thought you'd find out. He said, he thought you'd think the worst of him just for leaving. He claims his depression during his exfiltration was 60-40 genuine. I don't know how you quantify things like that.
You wouldn't know, Tom, because you're not an SDS officer. Of course you don't know.
Quite.
They've got magic powers of internal statistic, calculators.
Yeah. The Met Police opening statement apology to the women, which was like a modified version of the apology that was given years ago, was read out again. He was asked if he would stand behind that statement. He says he concurs with it. He was asked about why he declined the invitation to live with Mark Metcalf. And he said that, because it wasn't a long-term arrangement. It was just staying in the spare room. And that wasn't enough. He needed something long-term. He said the fact that Mark Metcalf was a named target played a part in that decision. And that is it. Mitting thanks Jenna, saying he appreciated his frankness and was assisted by his answers, and he closed the hearings for the year. And that was that. That was the last day of the hearings. Yeah, I did a video then at the end with Paul Heron from the Public Law Interest Centre, which Alison came and joined for a bit off camera. It was quite long. It was like 45 minutes long. We kind of reflect not just on that day, but on the whole set of hearings. Worth checking out if you get the opportunity. But yeah, I mean, then we all went to the pub, which was very nice. And I started eating chocolate and put on 5 kilos over the next couple of weeks. But all that aside, yeah. So I mean, what were you left with? What was your feelings at the end of that hearing?
Oh God, it feels like quite a long time ago now.
I mean, it is. It's 5 weeks.
What am I feeling? I'm just pleased. It was, I think I was very pleased with it. I was very happy about it. I think, as I said, I think he did us a lot of favours. He showed himself up as being pretty callous, pretty heartless. However, the turnaround on day 3 was quite beneficial as well, because it just made him look, I think, quite cynical and quite cynical. And as I say, there's so much we don't know still, isn't there? There's so much, and there's layers of it, as we always say. So there's like the personal stuff, and then there's the political stuff, and what we're finding out. And we've said from the beginning, as a group of women, that this was a tactic and it was systemic, and this idea that they didn't talk about it and they didn't know is just not credible. And whether he intentionally or not intentionally, he proved that.
Yeah.
So that was really, really beneficial. That was great. And also the thing I really enjoyed a lot, is that there doesn't seem to be any love lost between him and Bob Lambert.
Really not, no. And
and that wasn't guaranteed, was it?
No, it wasn't at all.
He could have really been. I think they're just also pissed off with the whole thing and with each other.
Yeah.
And I think that it's difficult because I know, we've got Jim Boyling coming up the week after next, and Carlos Saraki, and then what's his name, Rob Harrison. There's more of them to come, but and they're all, looking out for themselves at this point more than anything else.
Yeah.
And I think they're very, very angry that they have been put in this position by their managers and then by us.
Yeah.
They don't know where to turn their anger, really. I think that's, they're very angry with us, but they can't really express that too much. But I think they're angry, with their managers, but also the institution of the police. I think they're very angry with the Met as an institution for not looking out for them, for not kind of protecting them from this.
Yeah.
And for allowing it at the time, and now from their point of view, allowing it at the time and now being very shocked when it happened. Which you can see. I mean, I do get that in a way. So it's complicated. It's very, very complicated. But, how do I feel about it? I feel fantastic. I mean, I feel fantastic, a little bit of an exaggeration. But, I'm very happy with it all. I think we're doing I know I sound a bit like Dave Morris now, but I think we're doing a combination of Dave Morris and young Mr. Grace from Are You Being Served? I think we've all done very well. We're all doing very well. I know how frustrated people are with the inquiry. I know the inquiry is a very imperfect machine. But I just, from my point of view personally, and I look how far we have come. Oh my God, from quietly whispering, paranoid, frightened in my back garden. I think that Mark might have been working for the state, to my friends, to watching him up there, like whatever he comes out with, whether it's truth or lies or a combination of both, He is being made to answer questions that he never, ever thought he would have to answer. And that is excellent.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. You know, I'm often reminded of those days, even when we'd gone public and we were the first sort of legal proceedings were underway. Still, how kind of there was a really weird sort of atmosphere about talking about lots of the details, as if somehow there was still that kind of fear about like kind of talking about things.
Yes,
We've come so far.
Like, you know, with our case, the police were trying to strike us out.
Yeah. They were
trying to strike out the case.
Yeah.
You know, and
I was there. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Exactly. And yours as well. Exactly. They were trying to strike us out. And so, having gone from them trying to strike us out to that, these officers, even stupid HM1 with his, face and, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the ones who've got voice modulation, whatever, even those ones, it's so much more than we ever thought we would get, that we would get.
Yeah.
And they are like turning on themselves now, you know. So Lambert's going to be coming back at some point, isn't it, as a manager?
Yes.
How does he explain room 1, room 2, room 3, and
absolutely,
communal kitchen? How's he going to explain that? What do you know about that? Because
I think you'd say that Bob's a good bloke.
Didn't he say he didn't know?
Yeah, he said he didn't know. Yeah. I mean, I to be honest with you, I don't think he said anything as quotable as that. He probably went, well, I mean, as we would be sitting, the information would come across my desk, and he was just so, his answers were so couched in layers of nonsense.
Yeah, but I certainly got the impression that he was saying.
Oh, very much, very much. Yeah. I mean, he does. He said a lot of things like, "I don't recall today."
Yes.
I couldn't tell you today.
Yeah.
Which gives him the opportunity to say something different next time.
Yeah.
Because he knew full well there was going to be a next time.
Yeah.
There is more to come with the next time. There's me and my Newport gear, which is going rather well, actually. The rugby.
There is more to come. Sorry, there is much more to come.
There's much more to come.
It really starts kind of, it's like it's a what's it called in like a something start, running start.
Yes, it is. Yeah, a flying start even.
Flying start on Monday, the 2nd of February.
Yeah, it is. I mean, we have got so many immediate, things that. To be honest, I wasn't expecting it to be quite so sort of sudden when we went back, but we go straight in with some fairly heavy duty stuff. Joseph Batty on the Monday, but on the Tuesday we're in with Monica, which I think is going to be quite powerful. On Wednesday we'll be hearing from Roger Geffin, who was one of Reclaim the Streets, and GRD, who I forget who that is, and then on the Thursday, the 5th, it's Rosa.
Without whom we might not be here.
I mean, I think that's a very realistic thing to say. Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean? Lisa uncovering Mark Kennedy was the catalyst, but if you go into the weeds of it all, Lisa had heard about Rosa, heard rumour, hadn't she, at Shambhala Festival, all that story, so, and Rosa's investigative work is just extraordinary, and she's an extraordinary woman.
Really is.
And the way Boiling has behaved towards Monica and Ruth, I think Ruth has written a statement. I don't think she won't be giving oral evidence, but Boiling deceived 3 women and had children with Rosa. So that first week back is going to be quite intense, to say the least. And then, of course, the following week
is Boiling. Yeah, we've got a full week of Boiling. Which Monday to Thursday. We've got a week off. And then we come back with on the 23rd with Jason Bishop, HN3. Then we've got Donna McLean. Then Lindsay. Then the return of Lois Austin.
Why is Lois back for that?
I mean, I think it just relates to the deployments of Sriracha and how that overlaps with Sriracha. So I do apologize. My Italian pronunciation is not what it should be. Yeah, and then it's a full week of him. We've got Carlo for a full week from the 2nd of March. Yeah, and then after that we hear from Guy Taylor, Chris Nyam, Noel Douglas, Patricia De Silva, and then we get a full week of Simon Welling. No, we only get 2 days for some reason. Only 2 days of Simon Wellings. I don't know how he manages.
No allegation of relationships with him, is there?
I mean, there isn't, but I mean, there's plenty of other things he did.
Yeah.
Then we hear from Maya, from Atif Chowdhury, from Emily Apple, and then we get 3 days of Robert Hastings, who we know as Rob Harrison.
Yeah.
Towards the end of March. I mean, that is I'll be doing a full preview podcast episode this week with Chris Bryan, which will release before we come back next week, well, a week after next when we're back. So there'll be a podcast episode. That'll just be audio because probably had enough of seeing my face from just this one time. The idea of this video was actually to include other people, but for whatever reason.
It's a Sunday afternoon. Funnily enough, people might have other things to do.
Who would have thought it? I did intend to do this much earlier. When my initial plan of I won't, I normally do these the evening of the hearing, and then because it was the last day and we were all going to the pub, I'll do it tomorrow or the next day. And then 5 weeks later, I still hadn't done it.
Well, I hope these characters have provided enough visual.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. I'm quite relieved. I was expecting a lot more of that behaviour from you, to be honest. I thought all that kind of thing.
I'm a bit tired.
Well, thank goodness. I have decided. So the next set of hearings, rather than doing the Twitter Spaces audio updates at the end of each day, I'm going to drop doing that. I apologise if people really enjoy those. It's just one too many things, and I've taken stock of how much it takes out of me, this process. So I'm going to stop doing that. Hopefully to replace them, we will have more of these kind of videos, which won't be hosted by me, but I will appear on occasionally when I've got the energy for it. Recapping each day with other voices is the idea. So if people are able to want to join in with that, there'll be the opportunity to do so. I know that the discussions at the end of the Twitter Spaces is something some people really like getting involved with. There will be opportunity to do something similar. We'll see how they develop. They might not be every day. They might just be when there's a really big day, like an undercover officer or one of the women is giving evidence. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, I just couldn't keep up doing the thing on top of everything else. It's just a bit too much.
Fair enough.
Thanks. Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. No, I mean it is a lot, and I think the full day in court is enough for anybody.
Yeah.
So, is there anything else you'd like to add?
Not that I can think of really, because as I say, I'm very basically we've immersed ourselves in this household in the last 48 hours in slow horses.
Okay.
And I've binge watched and stayed up way too late last night watching it and didn't sleep very well thinking about the last episode, which is going to watch in a couple of quite soon actually.
Fair play.
We're on season 2. It's a good advert.
It's a massive advert for it. I mean, I feel the need to kind of plug the things that I've been watching, like people do on podcasts. So they go, "Oh, what have you been watching lately, mate?" I've been watching Dragons RFC return to winning ways in the URC. Rugby union is alive and well in Newport, despite the fact that the Welsh Rugby Union is trying to destroy regional rugby. We're the unwanted, unloved child of Welsh rugby, and yet, despite all the attempts to destroy us, we still continue to exist and appear to be winning regularly at the moment, and are through to the last 16 of the European Challenge Cup, which is very exciting. I'll be going to Paris on the first weekend of April to witness us hopefully beat Stade Francais, which the last time we played them we did, which was a long time ago. If anybody's got any comments, please.
She's fallen asleep. She's quite awake until then, but she's like, "Come on, wake up."
There was just the only one comment from Nia Taylor. Thank you so much, both of you, for having the time to do this update. Thanks for the support. I did have to badger Alison about it for a bit, but fair enough. I mean, I was being tidy myself with it. If anybody's got any other comments, please leave them now and I'll put them up. If anybody wants to, actually, I mean, if you do want to join on this thing, you could put in the comment that you want to join and I'll send you the link. I mean, I could just put the link there anyway, couldn't I?
Well, what happens then?
Well, then they'll just suddenly pop up if they did that. If they comment, I mean, we'll give it a minute, see if anybody comments and wants to join. But I think we've probably covered enough for today.
I think we've covered a lot. How long have we been on for?
An hour and 40 minutes.
Okay, there's no one. I mean, you can see a feature-length film in that time with moving images and everything.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it has been put. It has been put to me that that the kind of coverage that I do is sometimes a bit over the top. And
not.
Yes, quite. So, but I mean, I would point out that, and people have given me lots of suggestions about how I could do this thing that was more friendly to a wider audience, that wasn't just preaching to the converted. But I think what I'm trying to do is do a running documentary of what happens in real time in the most detail I possibly can.
Exactly. And I commend you for it, Tom. I commend you.
Thank you, comrade. So I'm not necessarily looking to be like some sort of social media star on this topic. And like that I do
just as well.
It's just as well, yeah. But also, the idea of preaching to the converted is not necessarily a bad thing. That it hasn't done Abrahamic faiths any harm at all for several thousand years. So
I like that. Suddenly, you're quoting Abrahamic faith in support of your approach. No?
Well, I mean, preaching to the converted is very useful, I think. So I shall be continuing to do that. It gives
us a lot of content, doesn't it?
It does. Yes. If people wanted to clip me, which they very rarely do. Though apparently there was some new book, or about a year-old book, that quotes extensively from me recently, which I haven't seen yet. I don't know if it's any good or not, but that's nice. Isn't it nice? Yeah. Nice.
Okay, well, the Wolf of Truth will be there next week.
Marvellous. Well,
and I might make another one. Not a wolf, but another animal.
Oh, another animal. We wait with bait. Is this because you've done enough when it comes to items of clothing? You're having to.
Well, yeah, sort of. But there's something quite. The thing is that the sweaters got named. The things I was making got named after each of the cops.
Yeah,
that's how the Wolf of Truth emerged. Because I'm currently wearing this blue Pete Francis cardigan.
Right.
And
you didn't want a Jenna hat.
I didn't want a Jenna sweater. No. And so the Wolf of Truth. So I thought. Anyway, we'll see. I might make another one of some sort.
But another little comment.
I just repeat, these are not my creations.
No, fair enough. And they're very good, though. They are very good. They are
brilliant.
And that the one of you doesn't look anything like you, so they couldn't possibly use it to identify you.
Well, it looks like Alison a little.
Yes, it does look very much like Alison. So Nia Taylor has commented again. People really should really read the books. Really well written. You can see the one of them there on screen, the undercover police scandal. Deep Deception is also known as. And lots of detail and info. And Tom, don't change the style of your videos. They're great. Well, thank you for that. I'm here for all positive feedback.
Yeah. Okay, before we get very silly, I think we should say goodbye now.
Yes, let's say goodbye. Thank you for watching. We'll be back again. I'll be doing regular updates as I always do once things start up again. So be prepared for your social media inbox to be full of my nonsense. Bye for now. See you on the 2nd. Cheers, Alison. Bye for now.
See ya.